make myself comfortable here, because I don't really have a plan. Isn't that fun? Let's see, how much time do I have to kill without a plan here? Good grief, it's 11:04. Well, I got to come up with something. My wife had a hospital trip she had to take this week down in Raleigh, and when Hannah and I can, we tag along on those trips for a couple different reasons, because my wife doesn't like to drive those places, and quite honestly, she'd probably never find most of those places. And so it's very important that we take her and get her there, and then Hannah and I, we try to take advantage of it in the time that she's in her conferences, and we try to go do some things, and it's usually educational things. We try to find museums or something to do with critters. Anything that involves animals is always good, and there's a really great, lots of good museums actually in Raleigh, and there's a natural science museum there that's just incredible. In fact, I believe it has more dinosaur bones than the Smithsonian does in D.C. And it's just an incredible museum for a state museum, and so I wanted to take Hannah there. But the evening before on Thursday night, my wife got out of her classes, and we went to this big mall that was close by in Durham. Part of it inside, part of it outside, just a really, really cool place. And we ate at Cheesecake Factory, which always leaves you like somewhere between full and sick, if you know what I mean. And we went to the mall, and we were trying to walk it off. And point being, I am full. I am full. If I eat one more bite of anything, it's not going to be pretty. And so we're walking through the mall, and we've been walking around for maybe 30 minutes, and we go up on a top floor, and I begin to smell the aroma of one of my favorite things. And I knew before I even saw it, there was a Cinnabon stand in there somewhere. There's nothing like the smell of baking cinnamon. You take that and bacon frying and toast in the toaster and coffee grounds being ground, and I'm telling you, you have heaven on earth. Those are aromas that just... So we walked down through there, and of course, sure enough, my nose did not deceive me, and there was the Cinnabon place. And of course, the girls working there were very evil girls, and they had these little samples, and they said, "Would you like a sample?" And you could just see their little horns coming. I said, "Would you like a sample?" Yeah, they were disguised as angels of light, but you knew what was going on. And I said, "Oh, I am so full, I couldn't eat another thing." And she said, "Come on, you know you want it." I said, "You're right, I do want it." And I'm standing there, and now this aroma is going up my nose. And isn't it interesting that you can be full, having just ate, and if you smell the right aromas, you're ready to eat? How many of you guys have ever ate supper, went to Walmart, got out in the parking lot, and even though I am not even remotely a fan of Ryan's, you smell the fumes of the steak cooking being chunked out into the atmosphere at Ryan's, and suddenly it's like, "Oh, that smells good. I'd like to have a steak right now." But you just ate. And the same thing can happen if you pull up down at Kroger, and they're hitting those hot woks in the Chinese restaurant there with some sesame oil, and it's coming out through the vents into the parking lot. Man, you want some Chinese food so bad you can't stand it. There's just the fragrance, the aroma, the power of that smell is so incredible. So at that point, I had smelled enough, and I said, "Yes, I will take one of your samples." And I took a sample, and I ate it, and she said, "And which one would you like, sir?" She didn't ask me, "Would you like one?" She already knew at that point, I'm going to buy one. I said, "I'll take that one right there." So while my wife and Hannah goes into children's place or somewhere, I sat out on the park bench, and I eat me a Cinnabon, and it was really, really good. But 10 minutes earlier, I would have thought, I can't eat another thing. Everything changed because of the aroma of something I smelled. And I was being reminded of that yesterday. A bunch of our families are also out today at the Jonathan's Hope soccer tournament over in Bluefield. We worked that all day yesterday, and it's going on today too. It's the biggest fundraiser for that foundation for childhood cancer. And so we have a lot of families over there working that today, and I think that's a a very valid work of ministry that they're doing over there, and we release them and bless them to go do that. But we were working mostly down around Field 4 yesterday, and we set up a little burger hot dog stand down there, and one of our friends brought this huge charcoal grill in there. He had to bring it. It's a wagon. It's on wheels, and you pull the thing down there. It was just gigantic, and we filled that thing full of charcoal and lit that on fire and threw hamburgers and hot dogs on it. And it was only a little after 10, but I told him I was being field marshal on that field at the time, and I came down there. I said, you wait a few more minutes. This place is going to be packed. I said, because when they start smelling what I'm smelling drifting across this field, they will not be able to resist it. And surely they couldn't, because, you know, I'm a gas grill guy because it's fast, it's convenient, but there's nothing like the smell of charcoal. I mean, if you want hamburgers and hot dogs, you got to have charcoal if it's a true picnic. And as they begin to smell those fragrances and that aroma come across the field, sure enough, boy, people came down there and they wanted hamburgers and hot dogs. And a lot of those people probably hadn't had breakfast too much earlier. But it was just the aroma. It was the aroma, just that fragrance. And so, if I have to tell you what I feel like my central job is as your pastor, and how I saw it 19 plus years ago when we planted this place, I'll simplify it by telling you, I feel like my job is simply to try to figure out how to create an aroma through whatever we teach, whatever we preach, whatever classes we do on Wednesday night, however we try to put together praise and worship, the songs that we do, the sounds that we play, the preparing of an atmosphere. Everything we do here is about one thing for me. It's about trying to stir up an aroma that will make you really, really hungry for God. Hungry like the psalmists that penned so many of the beautiful songs of the Bible. Hungry like David was hungry. An imperfect man, proving that you can be imperfect and still very hungry for God. Still prove that you can have family issues in your home, but it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that you could be very hungry for God. David, using such strong terminology to talk about his hunger and his thirst for God, his incessant search, as he would talk about travailing for the presence of God. The words that he would use were such powerful words describing his longing for God. And when I'm talking about a hunger for God, I'm not talking about being hungry or thirsty or desperate for God to show up and do something in your life. I'm not talking about that. Everybody in this room can relate to desperation. Being in a place where you say, if God doesn't show up and do something, and you're praying like you haven't prayed in weeks, months, or years because you're so desperate. You're desperate for God to show up and move. You're desperate for God to come fix something. You're desperate for God to change a situation for you. That's not what I'm talking about. Every human being, no matter how strong their walk with God is, or how weak their walk with God, or even if they don't even have a walk with God, every human being on the planet can relate to that hunger. You don't have to know God to relate to being desperate and hungry for God to show up and do something in your life. To instigate, suddenly you're praying like never before, you're in church like never before, you're doing some things you haven't done in a long time because you're so desperate to try to get God to move in your life. Every human being can relate to that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what David talked about. And it's a mystery. It's a mystery because if I go back at my own life and I try to analyze the years of my life where my life began to transition from just being desperate for God to come and make my life better and suddenly becoming hungry to know Him, I don't know exactly when or how that happened. So I don't know how to teach about it. All I know how to do is to be very intentional to try to create the same kind of environments that I found myself in when I began to smell the aroma of God. And His fragrance began to fill my spiritual nostrils. And I could begin to finally relate to men like David who said, I'm hungry for God. Some of the most powerful words that was ever penned is Psalm 42, verses 1 and 2. And no one knows for sure who wrote that psalm, but most theologians believe that it was David, that either it was David or someone directly under David's influence, but most say it had to be David. It sounds like David. And such powerful words when he said, as the deer pants for streams of water, so my soul pants after you. And then he says in the next verse, where can I go and find this God? He is wanting God so bad. And with David was always in trouble. David was always in hot water. He always had battles he was having to fight, whether it be against the Philistines or in his own household. In his own emotions, in his own soul, he would go through seasons just like you and I, where suddenly his faith would begin to just fall apart a little bit. Sometimes a whole lot. We can all relate to David. But in the midst of David's very real, everyday life that you and I can relate to, David went to a brand new place where somehow he began to smell the aroma of God, and he began to desire God. 6,000 years ago, when God stepped out and he scooped up the dust of the earth, and he created the first man, I assure you, God's plan did not revolve around God just being a caretaker of humanity, though he is a great caretaker of humanity. We did not exist just so God could prove how great he was to us, though he every day proves how great that he is. Every day he proves his love for us, and what a great provider, and what a great healer, and what a great lemonade maker he is in our life. But I can assure you, that was not the motivator for God when he stepped out and he scooped up the dust and he made us in our image to be like him and put us in the process that over many generations we could from glory to glory become more and more and more godly, more like him. Not perfect, godly, like him in his attributes, in his character, in his nature, preparing us for a final age to come where we would spend eternity with him and he would spend eternity with us, one like him. I assure you the plan revolved around one concept. And he used the terminology to try to make the point. You will be my bride. You'll be my bride. I love the story of the Song of Solomon. It's, for me, the most prophetic book in the Bible. It's about King Solomon and a field worker, a Shulamite woman. And the interplay is very interesting in the book. Early on in the book, the king is riding through the fields, and this worker, this lady, she's been working out in the sun, and she's dark, which was not considered beautiful in their culture. White skin was considered untanned skin was considered more beautiful in that culture. And she sees the king, and her heart is longing for the king, just like all little girls long for the prince. There's nothing new there. And the king, apparently, she catches his eye, and she is now in the presence of the king. And it seems that he is trying to tell her how beautiful, how lovely she is. And she can't believe that. She can't accept that. She makes a statement that we have completely perverted in the body of Christ. She says, I'm a rose of Sharon. I'm a lily of the valley. She was not trying to flatter herself. She was actually cutting herself down, because the lily of the valley, the rose of Sharon, were common weeds of the field that happened to bloom. And she was saying, I am common. There's nothing special about me. There's nothing unique about me. And he's saying, that's not true. You are beautiful. You are lovely. She's beginning to fall for him, and she says, I want to kiss you, man, with the kisses of my lips. And he says, quite frankly, you're not ready for that yet, because you don't know what love is yet. But he wants to show her. He wants to take to take the time and convince her how much she means to him, because it's not just enough for her to admire him. It's not just enough for her to have some kind of fantasy of living in the castle with him and all the perks that come with that. He is desperate for her to fall in love with him. And she's young. And she's got all kinds of imaginations. And she does not have great self-image. So he comes to her one night, and she's in her bedchamber. And he knocks at the door. And then he did something that was culturally common. He thrust his hand through the latch of the door so that she would know who it was knocking at the door. You know what she said? She said, "I knew who it was because I could smell the aroma of his hand." I could smell him. There was a fragrance that was on him, and I recognized him. But you know what she did? She did what was classic for someone who has not fallen in love yet with the king. She said, "I'm already clean. I've already washed myself. My feet are washed. I have my bedclothes on." She said, "Should I get up and dirty myself by coming to the door?" What she was saying was, "I'm already clean. I'm righteous. I'm good to go here. I'm not going to get up and let you in to this intimate place, my bedchamber, even though I smell you and I know it's you." I don't know how this made the king feel, and I don't know how it makes God feel. God's a big boy, but I know that we are made in God's image, and I am filled with emotion, which tells me God is an emotional God. He keeps control of it much better than I do, thank God. But I suspect, as I look at the Bible, and as I see man rejecting God, it plays on God's emotions at times. And the king was rejected because she was already clean. She didn't want anything. She had her righteousness. She didn't want anything else. She wasn't interested in what she didn't even know could be the best part of life. To make a long story short, he walks away, and she begins to think about her lost opportunity. She's lost this opportunity. He was there. I smelt his fragrance. It was so good. All I had to do was get up when he knocked and open the door and let him in. And he was going to come in. He was going to sup with me. And we were going to probably get real intimate. She realized what had happened, and he's gone now. And she starts freaking out. So she jumps up, and she decides she's going to run out into the city streets and see if she can find him. But now she's on her own. She's clean, but she's on her own. She doesn't have a personal, intimate connection with him. She just knows who he is. She's been in his presence. He has talked to her. She has talked to him. But they're not together. She runs through the city streets trying to find him. And she runs into the wrong people. And they beat her up. And she finds herself broken in life. And now she's desperate. Where can I go find him? Where can I find him? The story is given to us to give us a nutshell glimpse of how this thing with God is supposed to work. That God looks at us and says, "You're so lovely. You're so beautiful to me." And we say back to him, she said, "I'm dark." She was saying, my skin is not beautiful to you. I've been out in the sun. I've been burned. I've been burned by life too many times. How could I be beautiful to you, God? Do you know where I've been? Do you know what I've done? There's nothing unique about me. I'm common. I'm a common weed of the field. I may have a little bloom to me, but there's nothing unique about me. And God says, "I beg to differ. You're very special to me. I love you. And I want to be really, really close to you." So he makes us clean, and it's a wonderful thing, but more people than not say, "Here's where I draw the line. I'm clean. I'm ready to go. This is all I want. And he's thrusting his hand through the latch and he's knocking on the door and he's saying, it's me, I'm knocking. Don't you know if you'll get up and you'll open the door, I'll come in, I'll sup with you. We're going to have a personal time together that will radically change your life. And we're too often like the Shulamite woman, and we will not get up. We will not let him come in and be intimately personal in our life because we're so conditioned to stay a distance away from him, just like Israel was. Israel saw God as so far away, so distant, and they were so religious in their interaction with him, and we become so much the same way. We come chasing after him just like Israel did when life is breaking down and we're desperate. Please, God, move in my behalf. But as soon as God takes the lemons and makes lemonade in our life, we say thank you. And we close the door and he walks away, and I feel like my job is to do everything that I know to do, that the Spirit can teach me to do, to stir up the aroma of God, hoping that you will smell it and you will say, that makes me hungry. It's not enough just to go to church. It's not just enough to try to ease up close to God when I'm desperate. God's trying to pull us into a place of desperation even when things are going great, that we're desperate for more of him. That we can relate to David. I'm hungry for you, Lord. I'm thirsty for you. As the deer pants after water, my soul is panting after you. I want you all to know that when my life finds itself seated as it needs to at the feet of Jesus Christ, and I am getting personal God time, my life is so great. Even on days when I feel like everything around me is falling apart, when everything is out of control, life is still somehow just right. And I watch people, as a pastor for 19 years, I've watched people struggle in this thing we call Christianity. And they seem so genuinely confused about why they're struggling. For me, I see it much different than they see their life. Because more times than not, I just see a person who, they're a good person, they go to church, they are clean, they are righteous, they are saved, but they've never, ever, ever allowed themselves to smell the aroma of God. And if they have smelled the aroma of God, it has scared them. They've been uncertain, unsure, not sure how this will change their life, and they have walked away, run away, instead of allowing the aroma of God to pull them in, The aroma of Cinnabon pulled me to a place of eating something that I didn't even think that I wanted 10 minutes earlier. The aroma drew me to eat something that I didn't even realize I wanted. People yesterday on those soccer fields, probably not even hungry, had just ate breakfast, but the aroma drew them to eat something they didn't even realize they wanted to eat till 10 minutes earlier. This is how the kingdom of God works. The aroma of God. The aroma of God. The aroma of God will show up in your life. I promise you. Sometimes it'll be here when we're worshiping. Sometimes it'll be when we're preaching. I have watched on the Wednesday nights, especially as we've done specific classes, as it has whet the appetite of so many people. And as long as we were in those classes, they were just flourishing and blooming. And they were being drawn to God, and they were so excited. And that class would end, and I would watch how it would pull them in on Sunday mornings, and how they would start getting involved. And now that season ended, and somehow they managed to let their appetite end with it. We've got to be intentional. We've got to stop doing this to ourselves. Allowing the aroma of God to pull us in, and now we're growing, we're eating, and we're getting healthy, and now we're allowing something to interrupt the aroma of God. We're getting distracted. We're distracted by entertainment. We're distracted by sports. We're distracted by getting fit. We're distracted by the busyness of life. We're distracted by making money. And we pull away and we lose the fragrance. And when we lose the fragrance, suddenly we're no longer as interested in going to church or serving or just being in a God atmosphere. The aroma. The aroma of God. The aroma of God. I don't know where this is going, but we're going to stir up some aroma in this place.
As the deer panteth for the water, so my soul pants after you. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship you. You alone are my strength, my shield. To you alone may my spirit yield. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship you. You alone are my strength, my shield. To you alone may my spirit yield. You alone, you're my heart's desire, and I long to worship you. I long to worship you. I long to worship you. My heart's a stereo. It beats for you, so listen close. Hear my thoughts in every note. Oh, so make me a radio, turn me up, I'll worship you. This melody was meant for you. Oh, if I could only find a note to make you understand, I'd sing a song and the music take you by the hand. I'd keep myself inside your head like your favorite tune, and make myself a stereo that only plays for you. My heart's a stereo, it beats for you, so listen close. Hear my thoughts in every note. Oh, 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 so make me your radio, turn me up, I'll worship you. This melody was meant for you. Oh, oh, my heart's your stereo. Oh, 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 my heart's your stereo. Whoa, whoa. My heart's your stereo. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Father, I am waiting. I need to hear from you. To know that you're approving of what I say and do. 'Cause nothing really satisfies like when you speak my name. So tell me that you'll never leave, and everything will be okay. 'Cause in your presence all fear is gone. In your presence, in your presence is where I belong. In your presence. I wonder if this verse is for somebody. Personalize this. Father, I'm returning. The things I used to do. 'Cause somewhere on this journey, I think I lost hold of the truth. But nothing really satisfies, yeah, like when you speak my name. So tell me that you'll never leave, and everything will be okay. Come on, say this. In your presence, all fear is gone. In your presence, yeah. In your presence is where I belong. In your presence, say that. In your presence, all fear is gone. In your presence, yeah. In your presence is where I belong. In your presence, I just need your presence right here. I just need your presence so near. And I just need your presence right here. I just need your presence so near. So draw me to you. Draw me to you. Draw me to you. Draw me to you. Sing this. 'Cause in your presence, Come on, let's sing that to him again. In your presence, in your presence. In your presence is where I belong. In your presence. Oh, I gotta sing it once more. Come on, let's say this. 'Cause in your presence, all fear is gone. In your presence, oh yeah. In your presence is where I belong. In your presence. And oh, how I love Jesus. And oh, and how I love Jesus. Oh, and how I love Jesus. Because he first loved me. Let's sing that once more. And oh, how I love Jesus. And oh, and how I love Jesus. Oh, and how I love Jesus. Because he first loved me. Because he first loved me. Yes, he did. Because you first loved me. Today, Father, our prayer is that you would just simply whet our appetite, Lord. We're so grateful, Lord, that we're righteous before you. We're so grateful, Lord, that we're clean, that you like us and you bless us. You fix us when we break. You provide for us. You're such a good Father. But today, Lord, we're asking for more. We're asking that by your Spirit that you whet our appetite and that you stir around us the fragrance, the very fragrance of who you are. And Lord, sometimes it may be in an expected place, like when we come to church and we worship. But Lord, I love those unexpected times where suddenly we're just going through the daily routines and we pick up on something and we smell you and it draws us. Help us, Holy Spirit, to not be afraid of that. Help us, Lord, that when we find ourselves in your presence and in a place where you're trying to draw us, help us not to be afraid, Lord, of what that means or where it's going to go. Help us, Lord, to not be concerned about the trade-offs if we run to you. Stir your fragrance and help us to not miss it, Lord. Can we sing this one more time? Oh, how I love Jesus. And oh, how I love Jesus. And oh, and how I love Jesus. Because he first loved me. Can we give the Lord some praise in this place? Just give him some praise. Come back next Sunday. It's Father's Day. All you daddies come back. All you kids come back with your fathers. And that'll make the day special, okay? And maybe we'll watch Johnny and Chachi one more time. Bless you guys. Go in peace.